buckle up, because this is a bit of a long-winded story with some key points that I wanted to touch on. So everybody watched on live television how awful my year was, right? Perpetuated probably by, a really close friend of you and I, got in an accident, got paralyzed, and I went down like the what is life rabbit hole, right? Of like, why am I I'm stressing about this. And the guy who I try to emulate to be had a life change in an instant. Now he's paralyzed. But still, that guy has better perspective on life than I do.
Well, it's definitely a perspective shifter, right? Like that, like for yourself too. Like where you're like,
I didn't
wait
take
a minute,
it well. Yeah,
this could happen.
I didn't take it well. It really hurt. It still does. But I talk to him almost on a daily basis. But that took a lot of wind out of my sails. And then when we start the year great, top 5 Daytona 500, but he got hurt in March, and it was like I just got in this funk. And then it started perpetuating. I'm sure that I didn't probably do the best job internally with the team, keeping culture up, and then leadership change. People had different motivations and things with the team, and it snowballs the wrong direction. You flip over a couple times, and then they want to go a different direction. Whatever. That is also part of the game that we play. In that time, I'd been praying for, like, Lord, I'm wearing this stress and anxiety, and it does not feel good. So close the doors. And I was like, if the podcast is a distraction, that's the first thing you hear when you don't run. You go, maybe he's doing the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he's worried about social media too much. Maybe he's hanging out with his wife too much. Maybe he's in the shop more. That's all the you hear. And I was like, man, close the doors that need to be closed, and open the doors that need to be open. Because right now, I feel like I'm bogged down. I am depressed, legitimately. I am anxious and stressed, and I'm not that person. And a couple weeks later, you get sat down and you get told they're going a different direction. I'm like, well, dang it, that's not the door that I wanted to get shut. It's not what I was talking about. But the provision in all that is
off week. How you get fired on your week off, dude?
Yeah, hey man, we're doing you a favor.
I get fired on my day off.
Yeah. I got 2 weeks to think about this and then come back to work with a smile on my face. Appreciate that. But the provision was, I had a year and an option year left in my contract they are on the hook for. So I had this year, 25, on house money. That's my whole perception of it. But essentially, sports thinks I'm struggling, but nonetheless, I'm not struggling. And here we are.
That's the next article. Cody LaJoie sucks so bad, Spires, I'm paying him to not drive. Paying him to not drive this thing.
Buddy, there's nothing I hadn't heard. And there's sticks and stones. But get traded. And that puts some wind back into my sails, right? You get back in this real small, nimble, motivated group with Rick Ware at the top. I didn't really know I knew Rick through pleasantries and just in the garage, but Robbie Benton, who's been a friend of mine for 15 years, changed tires on my RWR Car back in the day, helped me with parts and pieces when he had his Xfinity team.
I started my tire changing career at his Xfinity team.
Yeah, so he's just a dude. He makes things happen. I appreciate the passion that he has for his people and his little core unit. He doesn't care about the noise. He just only focuses on what he has control over. So we make it. Chris Lawson,
Tic Tac, Jerry Kelly.
Now Chris Tic Tac is over with Todd Gilliland. I believe.
Yep, he's with Todd Gilliland.
Who we won a Truck Series champion, or won some Truck Series races with him over there. So in the time, I'm like, okay, I've always wanted to work with Chris. He's a racer. He gets it. He's not scared. And we come out of the gate hot. Right, we a couple top 15s, but in that 7-race window, it was a microcosm of what I knew the full-time season was going to be. We'd hit it, run decent, run, top 15 on a great day if all things fall our way. Limited technical help from RFK, small team just game.
Just have small team bugs that places like Hendrick and Penske don't have. It's no different than racing.
Couple things happened mechanically, took us out of Martinsville. Right, I made a mistake at Homestead, hit the fence when we were having an okay day, and just then run like where you should, a 22nd to 28th spot. And all in this, my mind was like, man, I feel like in that same time of like that last 7 weeks of the year, I started getting some confidence back in myself that I could do it, but also like I felt like legitimately the Lord was taking these blinders off, because for 33, started racing like serious at like 7. So for 24 years, 26 years, I've been blindlessly focused on trying to be a Cup Series driver. And a race-winning, competitive, quote-unquote, successful championship Cup Series driver. And every decision, every conversation I had with every partner and every person in the garage has been with that sole vision in mind.
Well, and everybody around you has had that same vision for you or in their life. So I think when you told me in the gym here, you said my blinders of being a full-time race car driver are off. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to put that. But there's a lot of people that when you tell them that, they're like,
maybe you don't want it.
Putting flowers on your grave.
Yeah,
like, I'm not dead.
Yeah, you don't want it. You're struggling, right? You don't want it bad enough, right? He ain't got that dog in him.
Well, and they also like, I'm sure of this, that when you, when the conversation came to have with Rick, which we'll get to, but when you decided to not be a full-time Cup driver, a lot of conversations with people that you talk to every day kind of went away, right? Like there's like people that are like, okay, who's next? You know, that's how the sport keeps going.
It doesn't matter if you're Hall of Famer Carl Edwards or Corey LaJoie. That's the spectrum. 0 Cup races to a Hall of Famer, right? And they'll tell you. Eric Amarola told me a great story the other day. He said that he had what gave him good perspective on the sport. He shared a ride with Mark Martin, 01 car, maybe the 8 car. And he idolized Mark Martin because who doesn't, right? He was one of the best to ever do it. And he's splitting a car with his hero, right? He wants to work out like Mark. He wants to prepare like Mark. He wants to use the same analogies and the same terminology as Mark. And like he was soaking it in. Mark had a mob of people following him, autographs, diecast cars, right? All that. And he was just like, holy cow, this guy is famous, right? He's like a hero.
Rock star, yeah.
He said, fast forward, and they do the NASCAR alumni thing 2 years ago. It's Eric's last season. And he leaves the driver's meeting, and they introduce Mark in the driver's meeting. He was there he's going to be on the driver intro stage shaking hands. He said they walk shoulder to shoulder, catch up on life. How's the kids? How's everything going? Walk shoulder to shoulder from the driver's meeting to the intro stage. Not one person asked for his autograph.
Goes fast.
So that's not to say it's not important, it's not cool, and that's what we do. But the success and the fame and the notoriety is very fleeting.
It's probably the same way with football and basketball and stuff like that too. It's
the same with life.
Yeah,
it's the same with life, especially if you happen to whether you put yourself out there on a public forum, whether it be the show or your job on national television, right? You open yourself up to also public criticism. That's just what we shoulder.
What we sign up for.
So in all of that, I started to realize, like, yes, I have fought and clawed and scrapped, and I am myself nobody's more critical of me than myself. Maybe my old man, but maybe a tie. And like, I don't feel like it's hard for me to look at my Cup Series career and look at it as successful. When anybody else that's ever driven any race car in the world would love to have my career and make the amount of money I've made for the length that I've done it and do the cool things that I've been able to do. But I, as a race car driver, feel like I have not done the things that I knew that I was capable of doing in the right scenario with the right people.
Well, it's timing, situations. Like I had this conversation with our team. I said, I read Everham's book last year. I said, like, when you think of a successful team, one of the most successful ever was the 24 and Ray Everham and Jeff Gordon. It was 6 years. It was 6 seasons.
Yep.
That was it. And then it was done. And the window's so finite, and I use this when we were talking about our 12 team, where the driver's in his prime, the cars are good, your team is good, your manufacturer's hitting it that year. The pit crew's good, the road crew's good, and the crew chief's good. Everybody hits it at the same time, and it's quick, and it's hard. A lot of people don't
even more so now.
A lot of people don't ever hit that part of their career.
Yeah.
And like everybody thinks that they are going to be Jimmy Johnson
or Patrick Mahomes.
You never aspire to not be, but there's one, right? There's one Kyle Larson, or there might be 5 at the racetrack any given weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
That have the team, the car, and everybody that can do it any given weekend. And for that situation to never play out, there's way more people that have been in your situation than haven't. But I think I speak for everybody when we say enough for the TED Talk. What the hell are you doing next year?
Okay. So, TED Talk.
The TED Talk. No, it's been good. It's good, and it's good to learn what goes through your head.
I'm
but
putting
then
some context to it.
Absolutely, right? Because that leads you to your conversation with Rick Ware about the 51 next year.
So there was a little bit of maybe internal conflict with the understanding of those guys wanted me to be in the marketability, the experience. I feel, we finished the year strong. Everybody's like pumped up, like this is our guy. And I really knew where Rick's head was at. I knew Rick has inherently leveraged and worked and scrapped and survived in all of this, in his NASCAR tenure of probably 20 years, if not more, of being the guy in the Cup Series who at all costs continues to press on.
He's a lot like you, as far
as
in a lot
of ways,
go.
Really in a lot of ways. And I've grown to really appreciate that about him. But he has done all of this with the intent to give Cody an opportunity, what he considers a full-time best people, best pit crew, best engines. Like, I knew that's where he's at because we've talked about it before. And I respect that. Like, that you do all of it. I would do the same thing for Levi or Jensen or Pierce. No different than you would for Harper or crew. And with the way that the charter stuff landed, with the way that there's more back-end purse guaranteed for the teams, that creates this less of a gap for him to make up internally for himself to give Cody a shot. I knew all the elements, right?
Yeah. So
I go in, and simultaneously, while I'm like, this is like week of Phoenix, and I'm starting to have some substantial conversations with Amazon. Alex Strand, it got connected to me, and we hit it off. He's around 40. He's got 3 young boys too. We talk the same thing. We're in the same thing.
So for context, Alex is the guy that's putting together the Amazon program.
All the talent, right? He's the one hiring the talent. He is over Thursday Night Football. He is ahead of all things Amazon Prime. So we've hit it off, and I go into the meet. So this was like Phoenix week. I fly back. I go sit down with Rick and Robbie, and we set the table and we talk around a little bit. And I said, Rick, I know your head and your heart is wanting to give Cody an opportunity, and I respect that, and I want you to do that. I don't want to stand in the way. I don't want any animosity between you and I, because I appreciate what you do, and also you can still help me do what I want to do. I've got this opportunity here coming to fruition with Amazon that I am very interested in. And I also, and I gave him the same analogy. I sat there and I was like, man, I've had this blinder on of being a full-time Cup driver at all costs, no matter what it is, no matter what the context, no matter how little money I made, I'm going to be in the Cup Series, because any given Sunday I feel like I can get the job done. But I feel like I'm open, I'm flexible, and I have a year, knowingly, inherently, on house money to go play with. And he was like, man, I appreciate you handling it that way. Like, that's ultimately where my heart's at, is I want to give my son a chance. And I said, man, better yet, I want to help Cody. I like Cody. I think he has the ability to drive a race car fast.
You want to.
I want to help
him. Yeah,
I want to help. I want to help Rick and Lisa and Robbie Benton and Cody Ware be successful. Like, they have helped me out. I'm willing to and also on the other side, if I'm going to do this show, if I'm going to be a part-time competitor, if I'm going to be just a general fan of the sport, might as well be embedded competitively with a team. Go to their war room, watch SMT, go to the simulator, and still be plugged in and sharp. So when I do go, I said I'd be willing to be involved in whatever capacity you want, to just give my experience and all my shortfalls and all the things that I know of to be like the only value that I bring is experience in the Cup Series.
Not really a driver coach, but like a consultant. Somebody there.
Call it a consultant. Yeah. I mean, go to the sim, and it's like a teammate, because if they're going to be a one-car team this year, essentially, with the 51, because they're leasing a chartered RFK for Ryan Preece. So it is hard enough to do it with 2 cars when you A/B your changes of data for data. But when you're doing it solo, you have no means of comparison. So I'm willing to get in the system each and every week, validate, sit in your comp meetings, just have Cody's back, and just help, and for myself, stay sharp.
So you're going to stay a part of Rick Ware and help Cody.
Yep.
Okay.
While also, Rick was super appreciative of that. I appreciate wanting to help my kid. It means a lot, and the value you bring to our team, like it's invaluable. So
and you'd probably be like a Ryan Truex situation where you'd be like a backup driver if something happened to Cody. Yeah.
Sure. But I said that I could put a value to it. I've got this harebrained idea about building off of this stacking pennies, hashtag stacking pennies, whether it's the show, whether it's merch, whether it's social media. And I think the story of just stacking pennies in general, people can resonate with. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's stacking pennies in life, whether you know it or not. And if you don't know that you're stacking pennies, you're probably not stacking the right ones, right? So I see the value in being able to brand a car and to strengthen bonds that I've had with partners that have been with me for a long time. If I can have a number that is a quote unquote mine on this stacking pennies performance brand. I don't know what it is. Maybe I thought about it and pitched it as a Trackhouse Project 91 type thing to Rick. I said, in exchange for this, would you be willing to allow me put this SPP, Stacking Pennies Performance, number 01, on his car? And he's like, oh, man, it's a big ass. Let me think about it, and I'll call you back. So he called me back. Man, I really want to help. It means a lot. You're helping my son and me. You bring a lot of value. And I really want to help you get this thing off the ground. Not sure what it looks like. Not sure really how it benefits me, to be honest. But let's do it. Yeah. We'll put, it's RWR Car. I own it. I'm like, yeah, it's all your stuff, dude. It's your people, your car. But I'll put your number on, and you can brand it SPP. You can put your paint schemes on it and your partners, and have some fun.
Okay, so break that down for me. So it's a non-chartered car, which is typically their 15 car.
Which is, essentially what they would run as a 15 car.
And then when it goes to the racetrack, when you see it race at Bowman Gray with Tim Brown, it'll be 15.
Yep.
But when you're in it, it'll be the
For several
01.
races. I'm not telling how many. I have several races sold, and we're going to essentially make it a surprise every time we go. But it will be at the Daytona 500.
Okay.
That's obviously the one that you always want to go. It's the one, right? So if we're going to unveil this Stacking Pennies Performance RWR number 01 car, it's got to be the 500. Whether or not we got a spot, we are going down there to compete to race our way in at the Great American Race, not the second race of the year. No, that one.
So it's an open car and you have to qualify.
Yeah.
So
I didn't get the exemption like somebody did.
Yeah.
But
it's open for anybody. But
not a past champion or anybody else, but
past
really anybody else. But that's another conversation for later in the show, or not at all. But so when we sat down and when Rick verbally allows me to put this SPP idea number 01 on the car, I'm like, yes, okay, first domino this fall to help somewhat get whatever.
So you alluded on it. It's how many races? There's not a set number, but give me a range.
Between 5 and 10.
Between 5 and 10. So we'll see you between 5 and 10
more than
5 this year. More than 5, less than 10. And then before we get too far, you touched on Amazon pursuing you.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
So I signed. So they get, after a couple quick conversations, they fired over a contract, and I signed on up.
So you're going to be five Amazon races this year.
I'm going to be at the pre-race, post-race desk.
I feel like you're cheating on me.
Sorry about it. I know you're a little jealous, but I will be on the Amazon Prime broadcast, and those guys are really willing to broadcast the sport in creative new ways that I think the fans have been hungry for. I'm excited to bring some of the ideas that I've had, that I've wished the sport would talk about, or wished points of view, whether it's more driver's eye cams or more technical aspects, to continue to tell the story as to why people sitting on the couch can't do what those 35 guys on a Sunday afternoon, 36 guys do. They just can't. And the reasons why people who don't love the sport so much is because they think they can sit on the couch, and they simulate driving on the highway as what they're doing at 200 miles an hour on the verge of wrecking every single lap. So we're going to work on trying to separate those two and paint drivers as they are Daredevils driving a 3,800-pound hunk of steel that has 700 horsepower on the ragged edge of crashing every lap. So it's been fun to be in some of those conversations as well. And just the amount that anytime somebody makes you feel valued and pursued and feels like you're an integral part of what they're trying to build, certainly is something that I've always been wanting to be a part of. And those guys have really embraced me. So
the kid's podcast his way right on the TV. Let's go.
It's bizarre.
That's good.
It's bizarre. So, but back to the competition side, we drove the motorhome up to Connecticut to see Grandpa, aunts, uncles, cousins over Christmas, right after Christmas, and then was driving back the 31st. And we didn't have any sort of skin in the game exchanged yet between Rick and I. We had, a couple partners of mine, Celsius and Schluter and Air Medcare Network, and some of the guys that have been with me that were just going to ride or die no matter if I was racing at all or running full time with the 51 or whatever happened. So we were trying to figure out what all the details looked like. And, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, including myself, wants to go to 500. Anybody that's driven a Cup car in the last 20 years.
Yes.
Drums up a sponsor to go bring to any car out there that's willing to go, right? And Rick's 15 car hadn't been announced yet. So everybody with a couple $100,000 wanting to go buy the 500. And naturally he starts taking these calls because, I'm trying to sell it, but like, hey, every now and then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
So you don't have a sponsor at this point?
Not at the moment. Not before New Year's.
The 500's one that
it's like its own deal.
It's its own thing, and then because it's quite a bit more expensive
like the Indy
than
500
other races, right?
Right, it's like 3x.
Yes, okay.
Of what you're
what Atlanta the next week would be.
Of what teams can demand to get in sponsorship.
Yes.
Rightfully so. There's 3x more eyeballs, there's 3x more fans. It's just part of the deal. So, Rick calls me. I'm driving the motorhome back, and I got just nothing but windshield time thinking about how I can get this thing off the ground and all that. And Rick's like, man, would you be willing to – I was like, how can I make you feel good that I get some skin in the game and just commit to me, give me some time to sell this thing?
So he was telling you, like, hey, I got some other people that have some real money, and you're promising me money, but I don't see it yet. So, like, we got to make something happen here, or I'm going to take this.
Yep. He's got to pay for the Roush Yates engine lease. He's got payroll. Between November and February, everybody in the sports on the ownership side is lean, right?
Yeah.
Because they're carrying this payroll with zero revenue coming in.
Yep.
And also for drivers, you got insurance, you've got stuff. All your expenses happen pre-season in January when you haven't made any money in 3 months.
Yep.
So I was like, Rick, what can I do to put some earnest money down on this house? If I'm looking at it as a real estate deal, how can I put some earnest money on it to get you commit and at least buy me some time? And he tells me what would make him feel good, which was the majority of what a Daytona 500 primary race sponsorship would be. And I was like, all right, let me pray on it, and I'll call you back. And I rode down, and I was like, all right, Lord, I have faith that you're going to deliver. I don't know. I have a couple that I feel decent about, prospective sponsors, but none of it's committed. Nothing's probably past the 50-yard line. Make it clear if it's a bad idea, right? I'm wrestling with it. And so I'd get home and move some money around and fire them it off. It's like, okay.
Fire over a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, substantial amount. Because I believed, one, that I was going to get a partner for the 500. And also, on the flip side, believe that it's important to get SPP 01, the vision and everything out before the season starts and go to Daytona.
Yeah.
Right? And also risk not making the first race. That's just part of the deal.
So fast forward a couple weeks, right? We know there's people chomping at the bit, and then you and I have a conversation because as you're leveraged with you put the down payment on the house, right? And then all of the prospects you have kind of go away. This one goes away
in the same day.
That one goes away
last Monday.
Same time. This guy's running. Okay, Martin Truex is running. Toyota.
Jimmy's running.
Jimmy Johnson's running. Helio Castroneves is running.
Justin Allgaier driving a Hendrick car with JR Motorsport stickers on it.
So it's like, hey, this is going to probably be the hardest 500 to make. So like you and I had a conversation. I'm like, look, buddy, I am your biggest fan, and I'm pulling for you, but you might need to start looking at selling this race to somebody because like I don't want you to be out before you ever even start.
Yeah.
And we had that conversation, and then the next morning you were like, I'm having these thoughts, and the next morning.
So, well, we go. So this drops on Monday. So 2 Mondays ago, the first prospective sponsor I felt good about bailed. Oh man, we don't have the time. Sorry. Good luck to you. 5 p.m. the next one bailed. Boom, boom. I'm like, I have nothing. So I went the entire week just like at peace. Whether it was blind faith or whatever, like I feel like the Lord will provide. I don't know how, but I have legitimately 0 leads on a sponsor. 0. Not a warm one, not a lukewarm one, not a freezing cold one. Goes all week, and I'll be honest, I was like praying about it. That was my prayer all week. Lord, please provide. I know you have, I have build my faith Or like I'm up now, the window of time is like, okay, do I tell Rick I'm leaving the chips on the table and we're going to go black car, SPP, good luck. Or do I pull my chips off the table then and he just takes somebody else's fun tokens to go race, right? Because there's plenty of people with fun tokens.
But it's getting down to the wire. So the fun tokens are getting spent.
Right.
The claw machines.
All of them.
Yep.
Was at Dave & Buster's last night, by the way. And it gets to a Friday morning. And I was probably in a 24-hour window of like getting a call from Rick, like, hey man, what do you want to do? And I'm probably dumb enough to like leave my chips on the table and risk it all. But Leanne calls me. She said, you're not going to believe it. I said, nothing surprises me anymore. What now? She said, I sent a partner of ours, Dryden, that is now Relodyne Oil Company. They were on our 7 car. They were on our 32 car. They've been great partners for us for the last couple of years. We hit them up earlier in the year when we were trying to put some sponsorship together while we built this like package to go to Rick to go full time. And they said that NASCAR wasn't in their plans of marketing. That was in like September. She sends, she's firing off flares to everybody that's been involved with us for that week and weeks leading up to it. But when she texted our guy from Relodyne, he was standing shoulder to shoulder with an executive from Take 5 Oil Change and at their sales conference down somewhere. And text comes through. He looks at him. He's like, hey, would you be interested in doing a co-branded Daytona 500 sponsor? And the guy was like, absolutely. And it was papered up, contracted in 36 hours.
What a change of events.
What a large financial swing that was too. So that allows me to pull my chips off the table, get all the chips and then some that Rick needs to go to the race. Also lets me kick off this 01 Stag and Pennies performance at the biggest race of the year with the most publicity and a cool ass sponsor. Duramax, Take 5 oil change on the hood, like it looks sweet. And it really was a blessing. It's going to be a long-term agreement with NIL rights, and they're going to be doing a lot of point-of-sale things at all their Take 5 locations. Like it's a really
awesome.
Cool deal. And then we're going to follow that up with the following week, Atlanta, going to that one back-to-back with Air Medcare Network's been a personal service deal of mine for a while.
So first 2 races.
Boom, boom. Nice. Right out the gate. And maybe if we win the 500, we'll race every week.
I mean, if you do
playoffs.
So, okay, so your perspective shifts from, okay, I need to try to find a sponsor to, okay, how do I get in the race, right? So what does that look like now with that 1501 car, the 01 car now? Mm-hmm. What has that transition been like this last week of like, okay, that's done? Because now you have a lot more on your plate, right? Now you're essentially, Spire had all these people in place to do all these jobs, and now you're getting the sponsors on the car, getting logistics, you got your own number on it, you're doing your own branding.
Getting merch, making sure all the press releases, trying to juggle all of these conversations that have been siloed with NASCAR Productions when we release the podcast, of RWR when we release the news of what we're doing, with the sponsors, which races, what time we're doing it, how we want to do it, what the paint schemes look like. Also Amazon, make sure they're covered.
Yep.
They've been so gracious to allow me to almost roll out this announcement of the pre-race desk.